Well, when I listen to you, you have to forgive me, but when you didn't put down fame, money, and power, but your emphasis sounds almost un-American for the modern world. Um, the real question, though, is how do we do this? Because you're opening our eyes and really having us reflect on the importance of our connection to one another in relationship and having some sense of purpose and serving. How do people do this?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I want to talk about that. And let me just say one thing about the earlier piece about this being American versus not. What we're seeing here is actually a very interesting phenomenon that's sweeping across modern societies, including America, much of Europe. I see this increasingly in India and in other countries too, which is this sense that, again, money, fame, and power are the definitions of success, that they're the epicenter of what we need to build our lives around. And that is being widely popularized on social media. I'll just give you a couple of examples of this. I was visiting India, for example, about a year ago when I was in office. And I sat down with a group of students. And if you had blindfolded me and changed their accents, I would have thought I was in Lincoln, Nebraska, or in Los Angeles, California, talking to students because they said the same things. The young men were saying that they feel inadequate because they look at what's being posted on social media. They see men with 7% body fat, with washboard abs, traveling in private jets, and surrounded by women, and they say, "Hey, I don't look like that. I don't have that kind of lifestyle yet. I'm not sure how I'm going to get there. I feel like a failure." I heard young women saying the same when it came to body image, but also talking about uh, this sort of level or definition of success that felt almost unattainable in a sense, and that made them feel like failures in their day-to-day lives. But this is, again, what they were seeing online. So I think I look at this as a phenomenon more or less sort of an America-specific phenomenon, more a feature of the modern world that we have to really address. And if you look, in fact, at our past in America, I'm not saying that we've necessarily gotten it right entirely, like in the past, but there were times in our past where we were more connected. For example, go back 50 years ago, and there was a greater participation in America in civic organizations, in service organizations, in faith organizations, in recreational leagues. There was also a greater sense that people knew their neighbors. People had their neighbors over more often for meals, or friends more often, over more often for meals. And we've seen a lot of those patterns shift over time. So this is all not to say that technology is bad in and of itself. But the challenge is when we deploy technology without either understanding the risks associated with it or without being able to mitigate those risks. And for all of its conveniences that technology has brought, I think we have not mitigated some of the isolating effects of technology, some of the damaging effects on dialogue, on the way we talk to each other or don't talk to each other, that have emerged in a world where social media has become the place to exchange ideas as opposed to in person. Finally, just to come to what do we do about this? Here's actually where I find some hope, Jack, because what I have found and been most encouraged by is that what we're talking about here, about rebuilding a life around purpose, relationships, and service, this isn't fundamentally like trying to transform people into something that's foreign to them. In fact, I think most people deep down inside want to be a part of a community. They want to feel a sense of purpose in the morning. They want to be enmeshed in a network where people help each other and where that's just the norm. And for all of the publications I issued as Surgeon General, and there were many that we did on issues like loneliness and the impact of social media on youth and parents' mental health, there is no publication that I found I got more direct individual emails from strangers about than on this parting prescription. And it was very personal feedback for people who said, I feel like something's been missing in my life, and I feel like this is what it is. Or I've been desperate to teach my children how to live a fulfilling life. And these are the elements that I want them to grow up anchoring in. And this just feels right. How do we do this? So, very simply put, I think we have to approach this on an individual, an organizational, and a societal level. I think at an individual level, we can think about how we build social connection into our day-to-day lives. It was simply as spending 15 minutes a day reaching out to someone that we care about, for example, looking for opportunities to serve or help other people. If you can just help one person each day. It can mean something very small. It could be reaching out to a friend who's struggling. It could be helping somebody who's lost on the street. But these small acts of service all add up. At an organizational level, I think we can give thought now to how we design schools and workplaces to actually encourage connection and community, to actually engage students and workers in the workplace in service collectively, which we know has a profound impact on how people feel and then in turn how they operate in the workplace and in school. And then finally, at a societal level, I think this is where culture really comes in. And I find myself, Jack, asking myself, what is the story that we are telling ourselves, our children, the public about what matters, about what constitutes a fulfilling life, about who to look up to? And I want to see ideally more books and more movies and more television shows and more newspaper articles written about people who are building their lives around those three core elements, because that's what I want my children to see in terms of role models. And that's ultimately, I think, what's going to drive the mental and physical and spiritual health and well-being that we know every human being deeply needs.